recording. 1, 2, 3, and I think we're recording now. So welcome to this space of Dance Tech and DanceTech.net and DanceTech TV. And so tell us where you are and who you are and what are you doing and what's the deal. Yes.
So we are StratoFyzika. My name is Daria Kaufman. I'm actually a Lisbon-based dancer and choreographer, and I'm collaborating with them on this piece. But StratoFyzika is an audio-visual movement-based performance collective based in Berlin. And we're working on a new installation piece, performance installation called Phi.
Could you spell it?
Phi.
Yeah, like the face.
Yeah.
Or, yeah.
Yeah.
The piece is really inspired by minimalist music and the real slow, incremental changes in minimalist music that alter your perception of the sound. We wanted to create a similar experience, but in the context of a dance performance installation, where those incremental changes, those cyclical phases are happening with the movement and the sound and the lighting.
Yeah.
And we're also incorporating interactive technology, like motion sensor technology, to help link movement, sound, and lighting.
Okay, cool. So can you just go from left to right or right to left, introducing yourselves, kind of names, and where are you from, and etc.?
Well, then that's me. It's Fanta. I'm from Spain, right now based in Spain, and collaborating with StratoFyzika also my second time in this piece.
Yeah.
And I'm a programmer, and I'm here to realize all these fantastic ideas they have with visuals, dance, and movement. Put all of it together and make it happen.
Great. Cool.
I'm Han, and I also live here in Berlin. And Daria and we met a long time ago, and we've been working together for many years.
Almost 10 years ago.
Yeah. We were actually at Mills in California.
Oh, wow.
We were going to school there. And yeah, so it's really great to be here working together with this team.
Nice.
But so yeah, I do we're co-choreographers and performers.
Nice. Great.
Okay, so my name is Alessandra. I'm from Italy. And in this case, I take care of the lighting. Even so, I mean, in the past, we've been working more with a projection. But, I mean, for this specific piece, it's more about lighting and using projection, but treating it as light. And, yeah, and I mean, this is kind of like, it's a new phase of the work we started doing years ago with motion sensors, interactivity, generative visuals, all connected to the movement. So for us, I mean, I would say like really exciting because we are kind of like changing the approach to the thing. So we are not going to use projection itself and graphic images, but rather like really just go super minimal and use like play with perception of the body space. And the reason why Daria called this like kind of an installation is because what we want to create is kind of like this environment where like sound, light, and movement, they all are linked together in different ways over the time of the performance, but this could be an installation itself. It could be also an immersive environment where some things are happening because something else has just happened, let's say.
And trigger.
Exactly. And there is some set of rules. I mean, there's a connection with the three elements. But so, yeah, we like thinking about this as an installation and performance. It could be both.
Yeah.
And my name is Lena, or Akamyao, and I make music. And in this case, I work with the sound, and also, as Alessandra mentioned before, that we moved from the previous pieces to somewhere else, to the new territorium. I also exchanged the classical stereo sound for quadraphonic sound this time, and with some help with another coder, Max, we are trying to establish the spatial environment for like sources of the sound, and by creating this sound pool, I kind of want to support the idea of the immersive environment, of course. My approach to the sound is a bit different. I'm not exactly that I would follow the minimalistic work or minimalistic techniques, because I have my own style and my own improvisation methods. But my main concept is energy itself and exchange of the energy. So for this, when we started with the phasing and so on, I took like the solar system as the main inspiration for me, and gravitational field. So practically Earth, Moon, and Sun, and the gravity, how it works, how it pulls, how it makes the trains, the tracks, and so on. So yeah, I try to do conceptual kind of like a take on sound, but the rest, we kind of, everybody works on his own thing a little bit separately, and then we have this residency where we all merge together and we connected. We are connected now. We are in the process of finding out what's with that, and what can support. So we are creating now the timeline how the performance will look like.
Yeah, is this the first time that you work together as this group?
You mean me with?
No, like the whole group.
This constellation, yeah.
In this
Well,
constellation.
this specific group formation, yeah.
Yeah,
That's true.
Yeah, we did different projects before, but for example, it was like either like this or like that.
It's interesting that we are using the metaphors of solar and constellations.
We've all been orbiting around each other at least
Sometimes.
Yes. So like one of the things that I think is interesting, in working with technology and dance and choreography is, for example, like you name the conceptuality of the work. Like at the same time you have the concept, you have your idea of what you're doing, and then there is a proposition about minimalism. And I was talking to Mark and Marcella, and I think that, of course, there is a very deep connection between cybernetics and the evolution of information technology to the inception of cybernetics and mathematical patterns, even how people dance. So now, or what we think contemporary dance is in the last 30 years. So anyway, I just throw that there to see what sparks in you, like there is the potential of defining patterns and how we think in patterns is very related to what we think about choreography. And then it's there in relationship to a lot of the impact of minimalism already. So how are you thinking to do something different? Well, like it's the introduction of interactive technology, perhaps, I don't know. How's your process going?
I feel like, I don't have to talk. Does anyone else want to talk? I feel like now, and I just wrote about this on the blog actually, we're at the point of like bringing everything together. We have these different sections that we've developed through another residency in Portugal actually. And I feel like now it's just a matter of bringing all the pieces together and seeing how they fit and seeing how the logic of each individual part can fit into the logic of the next, which is like a phase that you come to in any piece, and it's always, I feel like that's when you find out what the piece is when you bring the chunks together. So we're like undergoing that right now, and we're figuring out the transitions, because the transitions are really influential and important. But like more specifically, one section that we're sort of crystallizing right now, we call it the clock section, and it's a very intricate set of patterns that me and Hen perform, while the sound is kind of orbiting the space through different speakers. And the sound is composed of recordings of our actual sounds that we make while we do the movement, like our breath or our feet on the floor. And the light is also shifting with us as we move. And we're just trying to like really crystallize the exact structure in the we're almost like two clocks side by side, each going at our own pace, occasionally syncing up with each other and then diverging and then coming back together. And that concept of like dissonance and synchronicity is mirrored in the sound and the lighting. So that's about a more specific section.
Yeah, that's beautiful. You know, it reminded me, I had a teacher in Ohio State University that he would say, well, computers are just fancy clocks. It's like, what do you think that is? Yeah, computer is just computing. Computer is just fancy clocks. And so it's interesting. And then, you know, there is, of course, the dramaturgy or the meta-dramaturgy, or how to find the logics between all this. And there are these nitty-gritty specifics, perhaps, of the work of, you know, physical computing or what you're doing with the tracking. If you can talk a little bit of how are you sensing movement, or what kind of interactivity are you using for our geeky people?
Working it. But I mean, the kind of like tools that we're using in the past, it's not really like motion tracking. It's more like motion sensors. So we use accelerometer, a gyroscope, a magnetometer. So that's the kind of information that we get, you know, from the movement. We don't know anything about the position in relation to the space. It's really more about the dynamics of the movement.
Yeah. And what kind of sensor are you using? Physical, kind of wearable sensing, or?
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, I mean, for the past projects, we did build ourselves like board and like pick the sensors we wanted to use. This time, to save time, in a way, we are using some some sensors. They're pretty compact. They're kind of similar to what we actually created for like the past performances. Yeah, but that's basically what they do. And I think like in these days, I mean, probably after a work in progress showing, that's exactly what we need to define. So what exactly are we going to do with this data? We still need to do a lot of analysis of it. And like one idea was, because there is a lot of phasing in and phasing out, was actually not really just taking like the data coming from the sensor and use it for something, but rather like make a comparison between the two sensor scores. You know, so like that we can make an analysis and like see what are the differences between the motion of one mover and the other one, and maybe use that, you know, highlight that difference. So maybe you were like starting to use this one and then you go out of phase, and maybe there was like a way to actually capture that, because that's what the whole thing is about in a way. So that I think that's kind of the direction that we are taking.
Because we have two dancers, like before it was always just one, and then the gestures are, you know, they are just the gestures. But now when we have two, it makes sense to use the computation between those two sources.
I mean, there is so many parameters, you know, like sensors, you can wear them like in a lot of different parts of the body. Like there is a lot of parameters. I mean, if you wanna like really do like research that's really focusing on that, you could go on like almost forever. I mean, I think in this case, now that, you know, like the choreography is at some point, it could be like a good time to actually solve this, and to find a good way to use this kind of data.
Yeah, and what, let's say, like if as a group, we have like 2 more minutes. You know, like as a group, what do you think are you learning about in this process? Because it's first, you know, I'm kind of implying many things. Perhaps you're not learning anything new, but you know, if it is something that you're finding interesting. You know, like you can talk a little bit about it in this specific configuration.
what are we learning?
Like from each other.
Yeah.
From the process itself.
Yeah.
Well, I mean, there is something interesting because, like, the way we work, we start from the concept, and as you said, like, each of us is like kind of like developing that concept, but then we get together, you know, we update each other, and in a way, I can see that, like, the lighting work has been a lot inspired by the choreography, you know, when we met, and that a lot of kind of patterns we were using, you know, they become like patterns or like systems of the lighting, and I think, you know, that we came out with this like rotating thing for the sound that became also like rotation of the light in the space. So I think it's, apart from like more technological stuff, like this is also like the way we learn from each other, meaning like applying methods that are another field, let's say, to like our own.
That's beautiful. It's kind of transposing dramaturgies, you know. If you kind of take out the idea of dramaturgy as this kind of meta perspective of order and whatever is narrative, so then, you know, it's interesting how can be impacting whatever we understand as choreography, whatever we understand as music and composition or design, and of course the architecture of the technology. So they're all different, you know, like they can be transposed or resonate with each other.
You know, for me, like I completely created my own system of the whole thing. And now sometimes I really have to ask choreographers what are they doing, because I need to understand what they feel inside, and then I can find the spot for it in my own map. So for me it's also quite mapping, like, because we know we do the same thing. But in the end, but
we get there in such different ways.
But funny enough, it eventually it makes sense, and it makes exact sense how it should make sense. You know, so it will come. I'm pretty sure. I mean, like the patterns are set, so like they are already set. So for us, it's only to discover them now. And it's interesting and it's funny when we discover it now in like studios.
Yes. Yeah, no, it's interesting what you said, you know, that at the end we all kind of do the same. There is this pattern, organizational tasks, and then, but we try to understand based in the disciplines and the ways of doing that we have. Perhaps sometimes the more mysterious sometimes is that internal part of what the other people is thinking, or the conceptual, you know, or the method, or the things that are black box, like sometimes technology that you don't understand. But I think that this trade of know-how is very, very important. Yeah, and so I just want to throw away this kind of sometimes this very different conceptions of disciplines. But I think that what joins us is actually to live in an information-based technology world, you know, and also in a world that has been very impacted by cybernetics and systems. Everybody, from choreography to music, I would say, we think normally in systems and interaction. So how do you see that? If I just throw this, that you actually have more things in common than you think.
How do we see that? Like, like how does that manifest sometimes in our process, or?
Yeah, like how do you see it? I'm practically saying that you actually have more in common than what you see.
Yeah.
I'm
trying to think of a specific example. Well, I think like there's certain like formalist approaches that, I mean, formalism is not specific to any one field. You have, you know, the concept of looping any structure, looping a musical structure, looping a lighting trajectory. Like when you speak in more sort of formalist terms like that, phasing, canon, feedback loops, like you are speaking to artists in every field, that those are concepts that everyone can understand. Computer coders too, you know, it's so I feel like that's at the core of the piece, is those structures. And that's how we're able to connect across fields.
Exactly.
That's great. Yeah, you know, it's an interesting thing, because then it is what is joining all the fields is the huge influence of computation, mathematics, and cybernetics, that we actually came to be thinking about formalism in a lot of structures that we define literally in the 20th century. So with the so that's an interesting stuff that I think is very, very important for, I would say, for our field, to meaning the field of this very broad inquiry, that it looks like then that we find these common grounds, but we're already culturally embedded in these discourses and this way of thinking.
Like these are universal structures, that like repetition is the most basic structure, like babies, that's how they learn, is they repeat, and then they make variations on those repetitions. So I think a lot of these techniques we learn innately.
Yeah. Well, so thank you very much, and I'm happy that we got to have this conversation. I hope to see you in Berlin or whenever soon. And thank you very much. Recording 1, 2, 3, and I think we're recording now. So welcome to this space of Dance Tech and DanceTech.net and Dance Tech TV. And so tell us where you are and who you are and what are you doing and what's the deal. Yes.
So we are StratoFyzika. My name is Daria Kaufman. I'm actually a Lisbon-based dancer and choreographer, and I'm collaborating with them on this piece. But StratoFyzika is an audio-visual movement-based performance collective based in Berlin. And we're working on a new installation piece, performance installation called Phi.
Could you spell it?
Phi.
Like the face.
Yeah.
Or
Yeah.
The piece is really inspired by minimalist music and the real slow incremental changes in minimalist music that alter your perception of the sound. We wanted to create a similar experience, but in the context of a dance performance installation, where those incremental changes, those cyclical phases are happening with the movement and the sound.
I'm a programmer, and I'm here to realize all these fantastic ideas they have with visuals, dance, and movement. Put all of it together and make it happen.
Great. Cool.
I'm Han, and I also live here in Berlin. And Daria and we met a long time ago, and we've been working together for many years.
Almost 10 years ago. In the lighting. And we're also incorporating interactive technology, like motion sensor technology, to help link movement, sound, and lighting.
Okay, cool. So can you just go from left to right or right to left, introducing yourselves, kind of names, and where are you from, and etc.?
Well, then that's me. It's Fanta. I'm from Spain, right now based in Spain, and collaborating with StratoFyzika. So my second time in this piece.